Welcome everyone to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Today is going to be a very interesting day. There's so much happening in the polity and we must speak about them. After all, this is Political Paradigm. We will talk extensively about the state of Nigeria's polity, what it is, what it should be, and what we perhaps see happening in the future with the way things are going right now. There are those who argue that Nigerian politics is a little different, and even graduates of political science fear that Nigeria's politics is a little different from what they have been taught or what they expect politics to be. So let's get talking today. I'm joined by a man with experience, a former governorship aspirant in Rivers State, as a former senator of the Federal Republic. He is now the chairman of the National Agency for the Great Green Wall. I'm joined by Senator Magnus Abe. Distinguished welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you, Terry. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here again. I mean, it's been over 2-3 years since our last discussion.
Yes, I kept quiet for a while.
Oh, I wonder why. Now you're wearing a new hat. Chairman of National Great Green Wall. How's that going for you, considering the enormous work ahead of you? It's supposed to address issues of deforestation and to, I understand, to a great extent provide jobs and more, and what you're dealing with northern states.
11 northern states.
While you're from the south. So how's that going for you?
Well, first of all, I think that we should all see Nigeria as one. So whether it's the north or the south, Nigeria's problems are our problems. And I keep saying to people that sometimes we don't know how issues are interrelated. For example, every day you're talking about farmers, headers clash, people are moving their cattle southwards and going into farms and fighting and all that. The truth of the matter is that if we are not able to create conducive living environment for all Nigerians, people naturally will migrate. And when they move, there will be clashes because nobody is going to stay where they have no food, where they have no means of being able to provide for themselves and their families. So if we allow the deserts to continue to push downwards, then those living in those areas, as the areas become totally uninhabitable, will be forced to move. And when they move, they will clash with whoever they meet. That's just the reality of life. I remember, I always tell the story of what happened when I was secretary to government in Rivers State, and we had a clash between a riverine community and a community on the land. And so we went there. And when we finished, the chiefs of the riverine community called me aside and said, SSG, we want to tell you the truth. We know that this land is not our land, but we cannot live in the water. If you people really want to solve this problem, tell your governor to provide land, let them sandfill the land and create space for us in our own area. We will stay there and the problem will end. But we cannot live in the water. If we have no space, we are going to move. We are going to keep moving. So that's just human beings for you. People must move to where they can find a better life. So the challenge of deforestation, as we see it in the north, is a Nigerian challenge. Because if we're not able to make those places conducive for the farmers and their cows and their livelihood, they're going to migrate. And when they migrate, they know that if they go back, they will die. So if you threaten to kill them, you're wasting your time. There'll be a fight.
I don't think this is a federal government problem alone. It definitely involves the state. So I don't know the extent of the involvement of state in this Great Green Wall project.
Yes, the states are involved. It's not just in Nigeria. It's actually an international
Sahel region
thing, yes. And it involves over 11 other countries and international partners. Everybody has a stake in making the world a better, more conducive place for everybody else. And Nigeria has taken a lead in that area. We were actually the first to set up this agency. Other countries are now replicating it. And the initial act setting up the agency actually provided for proper funding for the agency by allowing for, I think, about 15% of the ecological funds to be paid to the agency to enable it meet up that mandate. Okay. But unfortunately, I think some time ago, the former chief of staff wrote a letter indirectly amending a statute of parliament with a written letter by some official, But we're working to correct that. So I believe that the impact of the agency will be felt better, and it will help to reduce a lot of the challenges that we're currently seeing in the North, particularly with criminality, banditry, and all that. All these are all results of lack of, proper opportunities in the areas where these challenges are. So we're working on it.
I wish you very well. I wish you well, because this is not an easy task,
No,
Senator Abe.
it is not.
It is not.
The president is committed to trying to change the story up north.
Okay.
And a lot is going on in that respect.
Let's talk politics now. And before we talk about the state of Nigerian polity, I want to have a conversation with you from your political history. You've been in politics since 1999, if I recall correctly.
Even before 1999.
So
I was elected a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly on the platform of the UNCP during the Abacha transition, which didn't work, but we participated. So we've been around a bit.
Oh, great. So talk to us about that political era and what sort of involvement has happened since then.
Well, first of all, let me say this. Political parties didn't actually start in Nigeria. The whole idea of a political party is supposed to be a gathering of citizens of like minds who see things from the same perspective, have common vision and common aspirations, which the party is supposed to manage to enable them contest for power and bring those aspirations into life in the society. Now, when the party idea started as a gathering of equal citizens, that's where the whole idea of the concept of party supremacy was born. And rightfully, the courts kept out of it. Parties decided their own fate, they had their own rules and procedures, and everybody in the party was treated fairly and equally because the party needed the support of everybody to move forward. But when you come down to Nigeria, party supremacy in Nigeria simply means supremacy of the leader. So the concept of the party as a collective does not exist here. I will give you several examples. The other day, I was talking at a dinner in Port Harcourt, and I said that we all did anti-party in Rivers State. 2 days later, I was watching channels, and I saw some people sit here to say, Senator Abe, in fact, should be arrested. This is a man, he's a criminal who has openly come out to admit that he did anti-party. Lacking integrity. And I was just laughing. Where does anti-party start from in our political parties? Anti-party always starts from the leadership of the party. And people, when they are in power, they enjoy those benefits of mismanaging or misusing the power of the party. And then when they are out, they begin to complain. Now, let me give you an example. Look at the last elections we had in this country. Let me start with APC. In APC, while we don't have zoning in our party constitution, we had an agreement that all the offices in the north will move to the south, and all the offices in the south will move to the north. Automatically, that tells you that the next presidential candidate of the party will come from the south. And so the party chairmanship that was in the south was now by agreement zoned to the north, and all of us supported a northerner to become the party chairman. Now, when the chairman emerged from the north, what happened when it was time for the presidential primaries? The chairman now announced that the party has settled on a consensus candidate, and the candidate was from the north. Now, if it was not for the massive, in fact, the entire NWC rejected it, all the northern governors as a bloc came out and rejected it. If that had gone through, and the APC had picked another northern candidate, as was proposed by the chairman, who was elected from the north by the southerners on the understanding that the presidential candidate will come from the south. If that had happened, what do you think would have happened to the APC? The party, I remember rushing to Asiwaju that day to say, no, we have to leave the party now. And he said, no, don't even say that. That's not how we behave here. Don't say that, don't ever say that. Because all of us reacted with that kind of vehemence. So there would have been massive anti-party. Those are the things that caused the anti-party. Now, look at the PDP example. The PDP, their own case was even worse, because the PDP constitution actually contains a provision for zoning of offices across the country. So when it was time, because the last presidential candidate of the party had come from the north, and the unwritten agreement amongst Nigerians, whether from the north or the south, is that power rotation in this country is between north and south. And all the parties, one way or the other, respect that convention. Now, Buhari was from the north. And so the southern politicians felt naturally that it was their turn to produce the presidential candidate of the PDP. And so they went ahead to support a northerner to become the chairman of the party. Now, as soon as the APC now picked its candidate from the south, the chairman now said, no, since APC had picked a candidate from the south to take advantage of the northern votes, we will now also pick a candidate from the north. But this is contrary to the constitution of the party. It goes against the interest of the southerners in the party, because if both the candidates are from the south, then the advantage of having a candidate from the north is irrelevant. But he insisted that there will be no zoning. Not zoning.
Well, was it really him? Because I recall at the time they had set up a committee headed by the Benue State governor, who had initially said they were going to throw it open. Was it really the chairman? I know you're trying to emphasize party supremacy,
yes,
and juxtapose it with
yes, but even if you set up
a
committee, the committee will be set up by the chairman, and you didn't need a committee because this thing is written in black and white, and there was an agreement that brought you as the chairman based on that understanding. So what did you need a committee for? So when you begin to zone what should not be zoned, or zone in people who are zoned out, that is a way of zoning out people who are zoned in. So it's just politics. But the point I'm making is that the chairman, once he became chairman, now turned the thing upside down and produced a candidate from the north. Now, when they asked him, okay, you are now chairman, you have produced a candidate from the north, we supported you to be chairman because we thought that we were going to get the candidate. What did he do? He didn't agree. And then when people revolted, you say they are doing anti-party. But if the parties can follow their own rules, respect the rights of their members, and treat people with dignity and respect, and understand that every member of the political party is equally valuable, you don't have all these problems. Now, when you go beyond that, outside of that, if you look at the political structure of this country today, every state, you have somebody who is the leader of the party. So it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Once the leader takes a position, that's the supremacy.
Is that provision in the Constitution?
It's not there, but that's what we have now.
It's a tradition.
It's a tradition in Nigerian politics.
So
and that's what's happening in Kaduna. You see, El-Rufai, as governor of Kaduna, was the leader of the party there. Now he is not the governor. You have somebody else who is the governor and who is therefore the leader of the party. And so the party takes all the privileges and powers of the party, and of course, that's how it's always operated. That's how he operated.
Pardon me, I would have to ask you this because you're from Rivers State.
Yes.
So Nigerians would want to hear you balance this. If you say that the governor of a party, or the governor of the state is automatically the leader of the party, does that apply to Rivers State?
That's what happens in the parties.
Where Governor Fubara should be regarded as a leader of the party in his party in the state?
Yes, if he can, why not? It's the party who decides their own leadership.
There's something I'm curious about, and it's regards to how political parties present their ideologies. It would seem that political parties in Nigeria only thrive on their manifestos that don't even get to see the light of day when these parties get into power. And so Nigerians begin to question the ideologies driving these political parties, whether it's just to win elections or to at least advance a people, as you said, that come together to advance a position or positions for the common good of the people. Because you see in the United States, for example, there are those there are Democrats who were opposed to Kamala Harris at the time because they believed in the ideology of the Trump administration. So they followed that line. But in Nigeria, that's what many would term anti-party, as you say.
But in America, people also did anti-party. When you see
that's anti-party?
That's what I'm saying, that anti-party comes when the party itself does not respect its own rules and the sensibility of its members. Okay, in the case of Liz Cheney and the Democrats for Kamala, they didn't understand why the Republicans will go and choose somebody who, quote and unquote, we all saw was a convicted felon and had been convicted of crimes, sponsored an insurrection against them while they were sitting there. And so they rebelled against the party. So when the parties take decisions that go against its own rules and its own principles and its own collective interest, there is bound to be a reaction. So that happens all over the world. Anti-party is not a Nigerian word, but the situation in Nigeria is escalated by the fact that, okay, like in the case of the Republicans, you could say, well, it was the majority of the members of the Republican Party who decided to ignore all the rules and conventions of American politics and pick the guy they wanted. That's their right, you know. But in Nigeria, it doesn't even work that way. Once you have a leader and the leader takes a decision, everybody tells you supremacy of the party, you must abide by it. But human beings don't live like that.
How did I don't know if it has always been this way. Because
it wasn't like that in the NPN. At least I was old enough. My father was a member of the Rivers State House of Assembly during the NPN days. In the NPN, the party was actually supreme. Because I remember in those days, Okilo as governor, meetings of the party were never held in Government House. All meetings of the party were always held at the party office. And the governor comes there and the chairman presides with the governor present. But in this in this republic that we are now, all that died away with the PDP. So the governors became the leaders of the party. They're the ones funding the party. They're the ones nominating all the officers of the party. And so supremacy of the party effectively became supremacy of the leadership. And for us to go back to what parties, political parties are actually meant to represent to the people, we have a lot of work to do. It's not something to blame on any one person or it's the culture we are evolving. And we need to see the danger of it and begin to reverse it. It's the governors, it's the chief executives, those who bring the money and fund the party. And Nigerians themselves are part of the problem. Because as we abdicate our own civic responsibility, you know, before people pay dues to be in the party, people contribute for party activities. At a certain point, it became understood that, you know, the governor funds the party. So if...
What does it mean to fund a party? That's one.
And secondly, party activities cost money.
Are there no other dues being paid within political parties?
The dues are actually paid most times, except for those who want to contest elections. At that point, the point of going to go and get cleared by the party, you have to go there and, you know, pay. The bulk of the majority of party members don't pay nothing. They don't pay nothing. And they have come to accept it that even for party activities, people need to be mobilized and demobilized.
I'm curious, Senator Abe, when we talk about the powers of governors, it's almost become a norm for governors to determine who becomes what in their states. Just as you said, they've taken over political structures. How is it that political parties have come to accept this? Is it just the money? Political parties have come to accept that a governor would fund just about everything in the state and everyone in the state, and you expect that things are supposed to go, that those candidates are supposed to act independently and work for the common good?
That's what I'm saying, that if we want to change the structure and the nature of our politics, it is the Nigerian people who have the responsibility, the obligation, and the power to do that. It's not something to blame on any individual or any one person. It is all of us collectively.
There are Nigerians who want this change to happen, but they must belong to a political party. If they belong to a political party and they throw their hats in the ring to contest an election, and perhaps are not on the same page with the governor or in favor with the governor says he has his candidates in the same political party, how do you expect that Nigerian to bring about a change?
That's what I'm telling you. The person who becomes a governor, where is he from? Is he not a Nigerian?
No, but you cannot leave the responsibility of correcting an anomaly in the hands of someone who perpetrates that anomaly. So what else?
No, let me tell you this, Terry. We just have to be realistic. It is those who have power that can use that power either for good or for evil. If you are the chairman, you are the national working committee of the party, you are the governors of the party, you are the neck of the party, they are the ones who can make the rules or adjust the rules to be able to make the party more democratic.
When we talk about politics, there are those who argue that as long as we still have money politics and godfatherism, that Nigerian politics cannot evolve. There are those who also think that it is not a bad idea to have godfatherism in politics.
I don't know what you call godfatherism. In every political environment, there are always very dynamic characters, people who can bring people together, people, even in the US, look at what Trump is doing. What godfather is bigger than what he's doing? He goes into primaries in every district, throws out those he doesn't want. You can't even get the party nomination if you're opposed to Trump. Why? He's not forcing people. It's his magnetic character and his ability to appeal to the instincts of the voters.
But that's a little different here. You just said it's not forcing people. But in Nigeria, we do understand that if you don't know the godfather per se, you're practically going to be forced out.
No,
We've had elections where candidates don't even get to see the delegates and all.
The godfather is not there when those things have been done. Those things have been done by party members who believe in the godfather. You saw Adelabu in Ibadan. He never went to any polling this thing. But everybody, he had that ability to be able to get people to follow him and understand it. These characters are part of the enigma of politics.
Do we need a complete overhaul of our political parties? Or do we just need a new crop of politicians?
The new crop of politicians hasn't worked. The newer they are, sometimes the worse it gets. You know, but I would suggest that there are certain things we can do to reduce some of these challenges. The first one is that as a country, we need to provide some, would I call it minimum level of funding for those parties that we have agreed to, not just to be registered, but that have won at least something in the elections to a certain level, that have actually established their presence. They should be given some support. You know, I think that is important. I also think that if we have a single term for executive office holders, maybe a single tenure of 6 years or something, it will reduce the amount of money, the amount of effort, the amount of waste, and the amount of time that we spend on politics. Because people are elected, for the first 1 year, they can't do anything, they're in court. Everybody goes to court. It's part of the electoral process in this country. You know, now they're battling through the courts. All that is money and time and moving witnesses and mobilizing supporters and all that. And then when you finish that, you settle down. Before it's 1 year, you have started preparing for the next primary. And all this thing takes a humongous amount of money. It's actually quite a thing of great astonishment that in the midst of all this, a lot of politicians are able to actually accomplish some projects in the way. If not, if you're not careful, you can be totally distracted throughout the tenure and you won't do much. Now, if you compare the kind of projects that we're doing now with the kind of projects that we could do under the military, look at the number of universities that were built, look at the number of airports that were built, look at the quality of the mega projects that were done under a more stable political environment, and compare it to now that this is the time that we're supposed to be celebrating the stability of Nigeria and be doing mega projects. Look at the kind of projects that are going on in Saudi Arabia. Look at the kind of projects right now, even in Senegal, billions of dollars. You know, people are able to mobilize because the climate is steady. But look at what happened in, I think, Ogun State, where people came to build a port. They had awarded the contract. As soon as the government changed, the new government starts pursuing the people. People had to run to London to go and start going to court and all that. So everything in this country is denominated by politics. And if we want to build this country properly, we need to recreate a political system that is stable enough to allow those in office to actually get the job done.
And you think that the 6-year tenure for the president and governors would solve this problem?
I think it will.
When we look at Nigerian politics in general, with what we have on ground now and the state of the polity, because you can tell as well that politicians jump ship left, right, and center.
They will. So I've identified one of the challenges for you, lack of internal democracy.
Some would attribute it to personal ambition, greed, to be anything. We have politicians who would jump from one party to the other just because they want to win an election.
When people are in a party, and people don't leave their houses to join parties because of people have things that are driving them. Once they sit down and they look at the system, okay, I'll give you an example. Emeka Ihedioha was the candidate of the PDP when he won as governor. Now, when he came back the time to run, he looked at the party. He knows that there's no way he's going to survive there. He backed out. Look at Peter Obi in the PDP. Because Peter Obi looked at the polity of the PDP and saw that they were headed towards the north. He's not from the north, so he jumped out. And when you look at the politics, like in Rivers State, when I started my issues with my former governor started, we were in a meeting, and he said, oh, as soon as they don't give the ticket to some people here, they are going to leave the party. And I knew he was referring to me. And I said, I won't leave the party because the party doesn't belong to you. All of us suffered. I know what we invested to build the APC in Rivers State. That's why I refused to leave.
Well, you left eventually because of the same reason.
I left tactically.
You left because you were not given the ticket, so he
saw the future. No. I didn't leave at the time he thought I would leave.
Doesn't make any difference.
No, I left at the time I did.
And joined the SDP.
Because I knew that Tinubu was going to win the presidency.
No, you joined the SDP.
Yes, I did.
You didn't join the APC. You joined the SDP.
Yes, I did. But I made it clear, even then when I came here, that I was in the SDP, but I was going to work for Tinubu as president. I made it very clear.
A clear anti-party, as they say.
Yes, because there was no atmosphere for me to thrive in that environment.
This is another reason why Nigerians find it really difficult to trust politicians. And that was what I was trying to ask you.
Terry.
What exactly drives the jumping of ship of politicians?
Terry, let's talk about Nigeria. When you say Nigerians find it difficult to trust Nigerian politicians, do you trust Nigerian policemen? What sector of Nigeria do people behave in the way that you expect the politicians to behave?
And who's driving the country? The politicians.
Yes, the
Some
politicians.
would say even the corruption in the police is propagated by the politicians. We've talked about the military being politicized as well.
You can blame everything on the politician. Let me tell you something. In this country, the politicians are Nigerians. There is no place where they go to. Okay, let me give you an example. Randomly, we pick 100 and something people as senators in this country. We don't go to the same place to go and collect them. We pick them randomly from different places. Look at the United States. The judges that are giving judgment against Trump, they are Americans. They were handpicked by Trump. But the judges, the American judges, they look him in the face and turn him down. If you come to Nigeria, randomly, without any this thing, we pick senators from across the country, from different parties. When they get to the Senate, they are Nigerians. We pick electoral officers, EOs, 774 local governments. They all have EOs that we pick randomly from different parts of Nigeria. When they get there, they are Nigerians. So when you keep talking about Nigerian politicians, it is Nigerians that become the politicians. So they are Nigerian politicians. If we want to change the way we do things in this country, we need to stop blame game, naming people or trying to be sanctimonious. You now see yourself, you are not a politician. So, so you are not the problem. I'm coming, sir. Just give me a minute, Terry. You are not the problem. But you are a Nigerian. And tomorrow you could be in the House of Reps. There's several people from the entertainment industry who are in the
parliament now.
There are several people from journalism. We had the former president of the NUJ. He was a senator, Smart Adeyemi. Nigerians have come into politics. There are professors who are in politics. There are military men who are in politics. So all the people who are leaders in this country are Nigerians. And if we want to talk about the problems of Nigeria, let us address it as Nigerians and stop all this blame game
Senator Abe,
and name calling.
Senator
Doesn't help.
Abe, we cannot ignore what you call a blame game. Let me give you an example. I was speaking with former Governor Rochas Okorocha, and he reminded me that he was once a wealthy man, or he has always been a wealthy man until he joined politics. Then when he joined politics, people concluded that he was a corrupt person. That is the perception of Nigerians on politicians. Now, it almost suggests that you have politicians and then you have Nigerians. So you see how I bring up the issue of politics? No, one second, Senator Abe, 1 second. Politics is a career. Being a Nigerian is your identity. They are two separate things. So when you have politicians who drive the policies that affect you as a Nigerian, and then you point to them to say they are not doing well, I'm not doing wrong in this instance.
No, Terry, politics is not a career in the sense in which you want to make it a career. People are called to serve from different places. We have people who have been called in from the international community to come and serve in political offices in this country. They served as politicians. Some of them went on to contest elections. So when you say politics is a career, that's not correct.
It is not a career?
No, you can't make it a career, but politics is service. And anybody,
should be service.
It is service.
Should be service.
It is service. And any Nigerian at any time can serve. And they've been serving. So the minute somebody holds a political office, or people sit down and then after elections, they say, no, technocrat. Those who participated, both of you will be lawyers, both of you can be administrators, but because you participated in the politics, the other man did not participate, you that went around to campaign, you are now quote unquote a politician, and therefore you're bad. The one who didn't come to campaign, he too has the same qualification that you have, the same worldview as you have. He is now quote unquote a technocrat, and therefore he's clean. We cannot run this country with that kind of thinking. We need to understand that Nigeria is for Nigerians. And those who serve our country are our people. They are us, and we are them. And if we understand that, we will work with them to achieve the things that are important to our country. To keep saying that the perception of Nigerian politicians...
Do you think it's a false perception?
It is a totally... Okay, look at what is...
I'm not saying if you disagree with the perception or not. I'm saying, do you think it is a false perception that it does not exist?
Of course it is wrong, because...
No, I'm not saying whether it is wrong or not. I'm saying, do you agree that Nigerians perceive politicians a certain kind of way?
Because of the way we communicate our leadership to them.
Just before we wrap up this particular segment on improving Nigerian politics, I want to ask a question, because I know a number of persons of good character, so to speak, who have been into politics. And then when they get in there, they begin to complain that they cannot effect a change. Meanwhile, we hear this conversation that you cannot effect a change outside, and then people go in and still can't effect a change. And their reason to a great extent is, as a minority, you will only have your say. The majority of the politicians in the pool don't want to do the right thing except it benefits them. How do we correct this?
I don't think that is correct. I think that anybody who has a commitment and a passion for service and is given a platform within that little environment where you are, you can make a change.
Let me give you an example.
Yes.
Some new lawmakers went into parliament, and then it was time to share SUVs or cars, official cars as they say. And then the bulk of Nigerians kept saying, why go there and do the same thing? Why not reject this and say that this money should go to more useful places?
They could have done that if they wanted to.
So if they didn't do it,
that's what I'm
it would not have stopped the majority of the other lawmakers from taking it.
It would have set an example that others could follow. You see, that's why I'm telling you that at the end of the day, we're all Nigerians. Why did they take the SUV? They took the SUV because there are people back at home want to see that SUV. Their fathers back at home want to... There is no way they will now go there and say, no, they won't take SUV. Your villagers will drive you out. So it is us as Nigerians. That's why I'm saying that if we train ourselves, train our children, change our thinking, the things we're doing will change. But you can't keep blaming any one person because leaders are picked at random. And so if you're picking apples from a pool of apples, and the apples in that place are, where are you going to get clean apples from?
Our time's almost, Senator Abe. Let's talk about the state of politics. Your old party is gaining momentum now. I don't know how you feel about that, but it would seem as though the SDP is blossoming.
Terry, let me tell you something about Nigeria, which you should understand by now. People have big names. They are not in office. Do you understand what I mean? They can take that big name anywhere, but at the end of the day, their impact is very, very limited. I was telling somebody the other day, I said, knowing Tinubu, the minute he didn't give Erufai that minister, definitely he knows that there'll be a reaction.
Oh, hold on. So it's not clear that it wasn't the president who did not give him.
No, I mean...
Are you saying the president
I don't know.
Give him?
Okay, the minute Erufai was not made a minister, let me say...
I saved you a bit there.
You saved me there, right? I don't know who didn't give him. But I know, anybody who knows Nigerian politics knows that these are not people who will just sit down quietly, and that's not the way. So those who are making the calculation must have calculated the benefits of having him as against the risk of not having him. And they decided that, well, I mean, the governor of Kaduna, that's how the system has always worked. That's how they became. That's how they became the leaders that they became.
You're saying someone like Erufai
has
what I'm saying, big name, but not a political, not political relevance anymore.
Terry, you say what you want to say.
No, I mean that was what you started.
No, but what I'm saying is that if you want to see a crack in the polity, you look at those that are currently holding offices. That's where the power is. If you see a crack within that block, then you know there's a problem. But if it is, they say former ministers are going to go and join this party, they are free to go to where they like. At the time they were ministers, there were also people who were former ministers, and they were not in the government party. It didn't stop the government.
But isn't this how it starts? We've heard about even northern governors who are aggrieved, and rumors, as they say. But you know, as they say it as well, there's no smoke without fire. And interestingly, this is starting 2 years before. It's always these stories. Let me tell you, Terry.
You're completely dismissing.
I do the SDP.
I'm not dismissing the SDP. The SDP is a political party, but I'm saying that in terms of the impact on Nigerian politics, we know that Nigerian politics is between the PDP and the APC, and the reason that is so is because these are the parties that have governors, that have senators, that have people that are serving in office and have authority and resources.
Well, but we're hearing conversations among PDP, SDP, Labour Party. I know that Mr. Obi was in Bauchi State to see the governor. He's in office, by the way.
But he's
the governor is he's an opposition, a strong opposition member as well.
There's always opposition.
And then you have the likes of Atiku. If these forces come together.
They've always been together now. They are not in government. So even they've always been together. They're not. If you're not in government, you're not in government.
When you joined the SDP in 2022,
yes,
what was your reason?
My reason for going to the SDP at that time, I made it very clear. It was clear that I will not have an opportunity to be able to participate in the politics the way I wanted to. And it was also becoming clear to me, to those of us who were supporting Asiwaju at that time, that Rivers would not have a chance because the leadership of the APC in Rivers at that time was totally not disposed to Asiwaju. And so we wanted to create an opportunity to be able to get votes in case we didn't.
So you joined the SDP.
And I discussed that even with the SDP.
On the one hand.
Yes.
You joined the SDP on the one hand for the sake of Asiwaju.
That was part of it.
On the other hand, for yourself, you joined the SDP to win or to have an opportunity to participate.
You know, me and you discussed this thing. You remember our conversation?
I'm asking you again.
No, but you remember our conversation?
No, I'm asking you again. Did you join the SDP to win or just to participate on the level playing field?
You see, let me tell you something. You must participate before you can win or not win. If we had gotten, the political dynamics change. If we had gotten the kind of atmosphere that we're looking up to at the time we started, would have been able to, participate effectively. But things changed, and we couldn't make the adjustments that we needed to make at that point, and so we had to brave it. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you're not in office, and you don't have the paraphernalia and the resources of power, you're going to go and join a party, no matter the names that you will not have that kind of consequence on the polity. If those who are currently serving, the way you're talking, those rumors will always be there, but they are inconsequential because they're not true. And I can tell you they're not true because I know that a lot of those stories are not factual. But the truth of the matter is that if that happens, then we know we have a problem. But I don't see that.
So there's
happening.
A possibility of that happening. Because there are quite a number of aggrieved persons. Even your state governor at this moment is aggrieved.
My state governor is not in our party. He's in the opposition party.
Yeah, but he is your state governor. I
He's
didn't
not
say
in our
he's in your
party.
party.
No,
I'm just
PDP
saying that he could join forces.
Yes, he's free.
And he's in office. Your insistence that...
What I'm saying is that PDP governors are not APC governors.
Absolutely.
The party in power in this country is the All Progressives Congress. So we don't expect that the APC is relying on PDP governors to help them to retain power.
Well, you never know. I mean, look at what happened to
coming.
Goodluck Jonathan in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Was he not betrayed by his own party governors?
Because I have told you there is an unwritten understanding among Nigerian politicians that power must rotate between the North and the South.
That's the problem. The fact that it's unwritten is the problem.
Yes, but it is respected. And when Goodluck chose to go against that understanding, his own party split. So right now you have a Southern president who is doing his first term. The North has no interest in coming to truncate Asiwaju's first term. They have nothing to gain from it. The Northern politicians within the APC will not countenance that because they won't gain from it. Whatever it is better for them that they support him, he finishes his tenure, and then they will have an opportunity to express their political aspirations in that organized manner. But if they go and break up the thing to say they are going to go and challenge Asiwaju, they may lose, and then there'll be a problem. So politicians don't think that way. That's why I'm telling you that all these things that you're hearing, that's not how politicians calculate. That's not how they reason. No, so I don't see the problem that you think you're seeing. It doesn't exist.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. Well, the one problem I think we both see is the one in Rivers State. And the most recent development is the impeachment notice served or made public. It's not clear if it's been served on the governor and his deputy yet, but I want to get your reaction to it for the fact that you've been Secretary of State Government, you've been a Rivers State Lawmaker in the National Assembly, you've been a senator at the federal level. So let me get your reaction to that, because impeachment in this country, we understand how tedious it is, but what do you think about it?
Well, Terry, let's talk to ourselves honestly as Nigerians who have watched the political developments in Rivers State. Are you surprised if that happens?
Absolutely not.
So why do you expect
Because it's been in the public space.
Yes,
both parties have said.
You have a situation where you have these 27 lawmakers. That's 2/3 of the assembly, more than 2/3. And then you have a governor who has support of only 3 or 4 members of the assembly. There is nowhere in the world, when you say prime ministers step down in Britain, it's because they lose the support of a majority of the lawmakers. There is nowhere in the world where you can run a government as a governor with only 3 or 4 members of the assembly without the support of the majority. It doesn't happen.
Well, but the argument at the time was that they had defected.
No, let me tell you, the people who were making that argument, I will address it. Look at Ugo Chinyere. He sits in the House of Reps. Every day sitting beside him are members who defected. They are with him there in the chambers of the House of Reps. He has never stood up to move a motion that, Mr. Speaker, so-so person left the Labour Party last week, he cannot sit here, he's no longer a member. But when he comes out of that chambers, where he's sitting with defectors, he comes out to say that the Rivers lawmakers have defected, they have gone and gone. All that is rubbish. And I kept saying so from the beginning. Anybody who knows Nigerian politics, you know that there is nobody who defects to the side of the leadership that loses his seat. We're all here, the Boeing House of Assembly members, they defected to APC. Did any of them lose their seat? Even governors defected. People defect every day. As we're talking now, by next week, some more people will defect. Nobody will lose their seat. But all of us know that. We were here in this country. Lawmakers who won election in Edo State The Speaker refused to swear them in. For a whole tenure, they did not get 1 penny. They never entered the assembly because the Speaker refused to swear them in. They were members of the APC, which was the national party at the time. We couldn't get them sworn in. Nobody could do anything because the Speaker refused. So we all know how things work in this country. But because people had an interest, in trying to demonize somebody, they called the House of Assembly pro-Wike lawmaker. They were elected in the same election.
I just want to clarify one thing.
Yes. So everybody
there's a difference between tradition, what has always been, because even I cover the House of Representatives. I've been covering the National Assembly since 2018. And repeatedly we've heard opposition leaders get up to read provisions of the Constitution that supports defection.
No, it's there.
It is clearly there. So the question I want to
but
ask
those same people
is it tradition or is it against the Constitution?
What I'm saying is that these provisions are in the Constitution, yes.
But they've not been honored over the years.
It is not that they've not been honored. There's a process for implementing them. And until you're able to achieve that process, like now, like I told you, the case of the lawmakers in Edo who were not sworn in. The Constitution provides that if you're elected, you become a member of the House of Assembly. They were elected, they were given their certificates of return, but they never became members of the House of Assembly. They fought in the cause for it, they didn't get there. So no matter what is written, there are processes, there are procedures by which these things are done. And if you're a politician, you will understand that and you will act practically based on what you know that actually happens. When people ignore the reality and then choose to, you have problems.
For the sake of peace in Rivers State, I want to get your thoughts on the actions or inactions of the main players since the Supreme Court judgment. That's the governor and the assembly members.
No, everybody in Rivers State is a main player. There's no way.
No, I mean, there are players and there are main players.
See, let me say this, Terry. For us to be able to look at issues dispassionately, you understand what I mean? There is no point in pretending not to see the things that we see. When the leader of PANDEF, Ambassador Igali, my very good friend, a brother, told me that PANDEF wanted to intervene in the crisis between Wike and Fubara, and that Wike refused to see them. I asked him, who are those? He told me the people they sent. I said, what did they say? So I said, okay, when I meet the minister, I will ask him. And when I saw the minister, I asked him. And he told me that, listen, all these people that are coming as PANDEF now, quote and unquote, were the same people who went to see Fubara as the John leaders and said they are with him. So how can they come in the evening and change their cloth and become PANDEF and then he will go? He will not go. Now, if you are not a member of PANDEF, and somebody wants to intervene in a crisis, you must get the confidence of both parties. If somebody says, I don't have confidence in the process that you have initiated, you can't force the person to accept that process. Because if you try to force the person, it now looks like what the person is saying that you have an interest is true. Because if not, why must you be the one to solve the problem? So this matter, as far as I see, has gone to the Supreme Court, which is the highest.
My question was more about the Supreme Court had
yes,
given
so there's
a judgment.
A Supreme Court judgment.
So the question is, the actions or reactions of the government, of the governor, and that of the National Assembly members to that Supreme Court judgment, how would you assess it? The judgment of the Supreme Court was clear. Represent the budget. I think that's one of the judgments. And then the other one was on the local government elections that were conducted last year.
Yes. Now, when the Supreme Court gives a judgment and say, okay, you are the House of Assembly, that issue of who is the House of Assembly is resolved. So you must deal with the House of Assembly as a House of Assembly. The Supreme Court cannot set a date for you to go and present the budget. There's a procedure for approaching the legislature. I was a legislator. If a governor wants to come to the House, he cannot just walk into the House. Even if they open the door, you can't walk in. Somebody must move a motion. Somebody must second the motion. The members will put it to vote before you are admitted into the chambers of a legislature. That's the procedure all over the world. So you, as a politician who is going to a place where you know there will be a vote Won't you first of all ensure? You think President Tinubu will just get up and drive to the National Assembly if he doesn't know who will move a motion to admit him? He doesn't know who will second the motion.
But he said he had sent a letter.
There had been days where the president was to come when I was in the National Assembly, and he couldn't come because the members
the governor
said no.
said he had sent a letter.
You sent a letter.
He didn't get a feedback.
Yes, so you can't come. The way you get a feedback is that you have to negotiate and have a mutually agreeable
But that's
time.
the same assembly that gave him 48 hours.
Listen, sir. What I'm saying is this. I can't speak for the governor. I can't speak for the assembly. But I have been a legislator, and I'm a politician. And I know that as a politician, if I'm going to somewhere where there will be a vote, I must be able to know, have an idea of my strength within that voting block to know whether I can survive that process there or not. That's basic. That's politics 101.
It's not in doubt.
Yes,
it's not in doubt.
You have to work that out before you go there.
It's
Even
not
if
in
you go there,
it's not in doubt that it's not normal practice for the governor to just show up.
Where's your advance team? Where's your chair?
At all. What is, however, the question now is the concerns around correspondence. I know the assembly had questioned sending a correspondence or several correspondences to the governor without any receipt, without it being received or acknowledged. And then it almost seems as if it's the same thing that has now played out when the governor sent a letter. But that's quite
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something that you need to understand. These people, whether governor, whether the speaker, whether they are all human beings. And we all know how we deal with human beings. Every day in this country, governors go and present budgets. We all know that. You're dealing with human beings, with emotions. They're people. Now, these are people that you had been totally estranged from. And you want to go to them.
He had also requested a meeting with them at the government house.
How do you expect them to? How do you?
Let me ask you a very important question. Let me ask you a question, because it would seem,
yes,
and I repeat, it would seem
yes,
that the governor is implementing the Supreme Court judgment. Can the federal government continue to withhold the allocation to Rivers State, even though the governor is trying to represent the
federal
budget?
Government, that's why I keep saying that we really need to communicate clearly. The federal government is not withholding any allocation to Rivers State. The situation is clear. The Supreme Court said, even if the Supreme Court didn't say so, it is clear in the Constitution that nobody can spend government money without appropriation. So it's not a question of the federal government withholding. Can they just give you the money when there is no law? The procedure for spending state money is that there must be an appropriation. You see in America, sometimes they can't reach consensus on appropriation. The government shuts down. You hear them panicking, a shutdown is imminent. Nobody is withholding the money. The law of a democracy is that there must be appropriation before they can be disbursed.
What I'm saying is, as long as the assembly is not sitting to receive the governor's budget, whose fault is that?
See, the budget is an agreement between the legislature and the executive on how monies are to be appropriated and spent. It's agreement. Now, even if they receive the budget and they don't pass it, you cannot spend. There is no law that compels the assembly to agree to what they don't agree to. And even if they pass the budget, the president can refuse to sign it. We have seen several times when the president here has returned the budget to the National Assembly for one reason or the other. And they meet and work these things out. It's politics.
Our time is virtually up, but I must ask this question with regard to reconciliation, because I listened to Mr. Tonye Cole on one of our other programs, Hard Copy, where he said that he doesn't see any reconciliation happening. Do you?
You want the honest truth?
Yes.
I don't see it.
So it's too late for reconciliation.
I kept saying that this thing needed to be settled politically. But you know, at the point there is a judgment, and people now have their constitutional powers, you have to negotiate.
Absolutely.
At that point, everybody has his power. You have your own, I have my own. You have to negotiate.
Thank you so much for coming, Senator Magnus Abe. It's been a long conversation, and I've enjoyed every bit of it.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to share thoughts with you and with your your audience as to the state of our country and what we can do to make it better.
Beautiful. It's not too late to ask you if you still want to be governor of Rivers State. It's just not too early to ask you, is it?
No, it's definitely not in my radar right now.
Oh, okay.
I have other things I'm concentrating on right now.
That's good. Thank you.
But the way I say things in Nigeria, if you say never, tomorrow you begin, they say, oh, you said so. But the truth of the matter is that that's not in my radar right now.
If I say that's how politicians talk, you say I'm classified. Thank you so much, Senator Magnus Abe.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking with Senator Magnus Abe on quite a number of issues. If you'd like to catch this conversation again, please go to YouTube and search Political Paradigm, or simply go to channelstv.com. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.